In this week's In-Ear Insights, let's talk about the sophomore slump. Katie, you were talking about the sophomore slump in regards to generative AI. I think we could actually make this into a two-part series. So first, what is the sophomore slump?
So I'm calling it the sophomore slump. But basically what I'm seeing is a trend of a lot of companies talking about we started implementing AI 2 years ago, generative AI to be specific, and we're kind of stalled out. We are at the same place we were 2 years ago. We've optimized some things, we're using it to create content, maybe create some images, and that's about it. And
We
everyone
fired everyone.
we fired everyone. There's no one here. It's like a ghost town, and the machines are just kind of whirring away in the background. And I'm calling it the sophomore slump because I'm seeing this pattern of companies, and it all seems to be they're all saying the same 2 years ago, 2 years ago. And 2 years ago is when generative AI really hit the mainstream market in terms of its availability to the masses, to all of us, versus someone, Chris, like you, who had been using it through like IBM and other, machine learning systems and homegrown systems. So I bring it up because it's interesting, because I guess there's a lot to unpack here because, AI is this magic tool that's going to like solve your problems and do all the things and make you dinner and, clean your room. And, I feel like there's a lot of things wrong, or a lot of things that are just not going right, where a lot of companies are hitting this 2-year mark and they're like, what happened? Am I better off? Not really. I'm just paying for more stuff. So Chris, are you seeing this as well? Is this your take?
It is, and a lot of it has to do with what I would call, well, it's not what I call it, it's what psychology calls anchoring, where your understanding something is anchored to your first perceptions of it. So when ChatGPT first came out in November 2022 and became popular in January 2023, what were people using it for? Let's write some blog posts, right? And 2 years later, where are we? Let's write some blog posts. And the tools and the capabilities have advanced exponentially since then. One of the big things and this is something that we've heard from clients, and I've seen and heard at trade shows and conferences and all this stuff. People don't understand even what's possible with the tools, what you can do with them. And as a result, they're still stuck in 2023 of let's write some blog posts instead of, hey, today, use this tool to build software, use this tool to create video, use this tool to make fully synthetic podcasts. So as much as it makes me cringe, there's this term from consulting called the art of the possible. And that really is still one of the major issues for people to open their minds and go, oh, I can do this. This morning on LinkedIn, I was sharing from our live stream a couple weeks ago. Hey, you can use Notebook LM to make segments of like your sales playbook as training audio, as a training podcast internally, so that you could help new hires onboard quickly by having, a series of podcasts made from your own company's materials.
Do you think that when generative AI hit the market, people jumped on it too quickly? Is that the problem? Or, is it evolving so fast? Or, what do you think happened that 2 years later, despite all the advances, companies are kind of stalled out in what we're calling the sophomore slump?
I don't think they jumped on it too quickly. I don't think they kept up with the changes. Again, it's anchoring. One of the very interesting things that I've seen at workshops. So, for example, we've been working with SMPS, the Society for Marketing Professional Services, and they're one of our favorite clients because we get a chance to hang out with them twice a year, every year, for a 2-day workshops. And I noted at the most recent one, the demographic of the audience changed radically. In the first workshop back in 2023. Late 2023, it was 60-40, women to men, as mid to senior level folks. In this most recent one, was 95-5 women and much more junior level folks. And I remember commenting, to the organizers. I said, "What's going on here?" And they said what they've heard is that all the senior level folks like, "Oh yeah, I know AI. We're just going to send our junior people." I'm like, but what I'm presenting today in 2025 is so far different from what you learned in late 2023. You should be here as a senior leader to see what's possible today.
It's and I have so many questions about that kind of mentality that I know everything I need to know, therefore it doesn't apply to me. Think about non-AI based technology. Think about the rest of your tech stack. You know, servers, cloud storage, databases. Those things aren't static. They change and evolve, maybe not at the pace that generative AI has been evolving, but they still change and there's still things to know and learn. Like, it's unless you are the person developing the software, that you likely don't know everything about it. And so I've always sort of been really suspicious of people who have that, I know everything I need to know. I can't learn any more about this. Like, it's just not relevant sort of mentality. That to me is hugely concerning. And so it sounds like what you are seeing as a pattern, in addition to this sophomore slump, is people saying, I know enough. I don't need to keep up with it. I'm good.
Exactly. So their perception of generative AI and its capabilities, and therefore knowing what to ask for as leaders, is frozen in late
Mm.
2023. Their understanding has not evolved. And while the technology has evolved, so as a point of comparison, generative AI's capabilities in terms of what the tools can do double every 6 months. So a task that took an hour for AI to do 6 months ago now takes 30 minutes. A task that they couldn't do 6 months ago, they can do now. And so since 2023, we've essentially had what? 5 doublings. Like, that's 2 to the 5th
Mhm.
power, 5 doublings of its capabilities. And so if you're stuck in late 2023, yeah, of course you're having a sophomore slump, because it's like you learned to ride a bicycle and today there is a Bugatti Chiron in your driveway and you're like, I'm going to bicycle to the store. Like, well, you can do a bit more than that now, right? You can go a little bit faster. You can go places you couldn't go previously. And I don't know how to fix that. And I don't know how to get the messaging out to those senior leaders to say, what you think you know about AI is not where the technology is today, which means that if you care about things like ROI, what is the ROI of AI? You are not unlocking value because you don't even know what it can do.
Well, see, and now you're hitting on, because you just said, I don't know how to reach these leaders, but yet in the same sentence, you said, but here are the things they care about. Those are the terms that needs to be put in for people to pay attention. And I'll give us sort of a knock on this too. Like, we're not putting it in those terms. We're not saying, here's the value of the latest and greatest version of AI models, or here's how you can save money. We're talking about it in terms of what the technology can do, not what it can do for you and why you should care. I was having this conversation with one of our clients this morning as they're trying to understand what GPTs, what models their team members are using, but they weren't telling the team members why they were asking, like why it mattered if they knew what they were using or not. And it's it's the oldest thing of humankind, of like, just tell me what's in it for me. How does this make it about me? I wanna see myself in this, and that's one of the reasons why, the 5 Ps is so useful. Like, so this isn't necessarily like a use the 5 Ps, but it could be. So the 5 Ps are purpose, people, process, platform, performance. When we're the ones at the cutting edge and we're saying we know that AI can do all of these really cool things, it's our responsibility to help those who need the education see themselves in it. So, Chris, one of the things that we do is, so on Mondays we send out, here's a roundup of everything that's happened with AI, and you can get that. That's our Substack newsletter. But what we're not doing in that newsletter is saying, so we do say this is why you should pay attention, but not here's the value if you implement this. This particular thing could save you money. This particular thing could, increase your productivity. And that's going to be different for every client. I feel like I'm kind of rambling and I'm kind of sort of like struggling through my thought process here, but really what it boils down to is AI is changing so fast that those of us on the front lines need to do a better job of explaining not just why you should care, but what the benefit is going to be, but in the terms that those individuals care about. And that's going to look different for everyone. And I don't know if that's scalable.
I don't think it is scalable. And I think the other issue is that so many people are locked into the past that it's difficult to even make headway and to explain, like, here's how this thing will benefit you. So to your point, part of our responsibility is to demonstrate use cases, even simple ones, to say, like, here with today's modern tooling, here's a use case that you can use generative AI for. So at the workshop yesterday, we have this PDF rich, full of research. It's a lot. I mean, there's like 50 some odd pages, high quality data. But we said, well, what would it look like if you put this into Google Gemini and turn it into a one-page infographic of just the things that the ideal customer profile cares about? And suddenly the models can take that, distill it down, identify from the ideal customer profile, these are like the 5 things they really care about, and make a one-page infographic. And now you've used the tools to not just process words, but make an output. And they can say, oh, I understand the value of this output is I don't have to wait 3 weeks for creative to do exactly the same thing. We can give the first draft to creative and get it turned around in 24 hours because they can add a little bit of polish and fix the screw ups of the AI. But speed, right? The key output there is speed, high quality. But creative was already creating high quality, but speed was the key output there. In another example, everybody and their cousin is like, suddenly, it's funny. I see this on LinkedIn, like, oh, you should be using GPTs. I'm like, you should have been using GPTs for like over a year and a half now. What you should be doing now is looking at how do I build MCPs that can go cross-platform. So it's like a GPT, but it goes anywhere you go. So if your company uses Copilot, you will be able to use MCP. If your company uses Gemini, you'll be able to use this. So what does it look like for your company? If you've got a great idea, to turn it into an MCP and maybe put it up for sale, like, hey, more revenue. The benefit to you is more revenue. You can take your data and your secret sauce, put it into this thing. This, it's essentially an app, and sell it. More revenue. So it's our responsibility to create these use cases and, to your point, clearly state, here's the purpose and here's the outcome, money or time or something that you could go, oh, I would like that.
It occurs to me, and this, I kind of feel silly that this only just occurred to me, that so, when we're doing our roundup of here's what changed with AI week over week, to pull the data for that newsletter, we're using our ideal customer profile, but we're not using our ideal customer profile as deeply as we could be. So if those listening aren't familiar, one of the things that we've been doing at Trust Insights is taking publicly available data plus our own data sets, like our CRM data, our Google Analytics data, and building what we're calling these ideal customer profiles. So a synthetic stand-in for who should be a Trust Insights customer. And it goes pretty deep. It goes into, buying motivations, pain points, things that the ideal customer would care about. And, so as we're talking, it occurs to me, Chris, we're saying, well, it's not scalable to customize the news for, all of these different people, but using generative AI, it might be, it could be. And so I'm not saying like we have to segment off our newsletter into like 8 different versions depending on the audience, but perhaps there's an opportunity to include a little bit more detail around how a specific advancement in generative AI addresses a specific pain point from our ideal customer profile, because theoretically it's our ideal customers who are subscribing to our content. It's all very, I would need to sort of like outline it in how all these things connect, but in my brain I can sort of see how, again, that advanced use case of generative AI actually brings you back to the basics of how are you solving my problem?
Right. So in an example from that, you would say, okay, which of the 4 dimensions, it could be more, but which of the 4 dimensions does this news impact? Bigger, better, faster, cheaper, right? So which one of these does this help? And if it doesn't align to any of those 4, then maybe it's not of use to the ICP, because they can go, well, this doesn't make me do things better or faster or save me money or save me time. So maybe it's not that relevant.
Mhm.
And the key thing here, which a lot of folks don't have in their current capabilities, is that scale. So when we make that change to the prompt that is embedded inside this AI agent, the agent will then go and apply it to 1,000 different articles at a scale that you would be copying and pasting in Chat GPT for 3 days to do the exact same thing.
Sounds awful.
And that's where we come back to where we started with this about the sophomore slump, is to say, like, if the people are not building processes and
Mhm.
systems that allow the use of AI to scale. Everyone is still in the web interface, like, oh, open up Chat GPT and do this thing. Like, that's great. But at this point in someone's AI evolution, Chat GPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever should be your R&D, right? That's where you do your R&D to prove that your prompt will even work. But once you've done R&D, you can't live in R&D. You have to take it to development, to staging, and eventually to production, taking it on the line, so that you have an AI newsletter the machine spits out. You've proven that it works through the web interface. You've proven it works by testing it. And now it's like, okay, how do we scale this in production? And I feel like because so many people are using generative AI as language tools rather than seeing them as what they are, which is thinly disguised programming tools, they don't think about the rest of the SDLC and say, well, how do we take this and put it in production? Like, you're constantly in debug mode and you never leave it.
Let's go back to the audience. Because one of the things that you mentioned is that you've seen a shift in the demographic to who you've been speaking to. So it was, upper level management executives, and now those folks feel like they know enough. Do you think part of the challenge with this sophomore slump that we're seeing is what the executives and the upper level management think they learned is not also then getting distilled down into those junior staff members? So it's also sort of a communication issue, a delegation issue, of, well, I learned how to build a custom GPT to write blogs for me in my voice, so you go ahead and do the same thing. But that's sort of where the conversation ends. Or here's my custom GPT. You can use my voice when I'm not around. But then the, marketing analyst like, okay, but what about everything else that's on my plate? Do you feel like that education and knowledge transfer is part of why we're seeing this slump?
Absolutely. I think that's part of it. And again, those leaders not knowing what's happening on the front lines of the technology itself means they don't know what to ask for. They remember that snapshot of AI that they had in October 2023, and they go, "Oh yeah, we can use this to make more blog posts." Like, that's if you don't know what's on the menu, then you're going to keep ordering the same thing, even if the menu's changed, right? Back in 2023, the menu was this big. It's like blog posts. Like, okay, I like more blog posts. Now the menu is like this big and saying you can do your corporate strategy. You can audit financial documents. You can use Google Colab to do advanced data analysis. You can make videos and audio and all this stuff. And so the menu, it now looks like the Cheesecake Factory. But the executive still has the mental snapshot of an index card version of the menu and then the junior person goes to a workshop, says, wow, the menu looks like a Cheesecake Factory menu now. Then they come back to the office and they say, oh, I've got all these ideas that we can implement. And the executive's like, no, just make more blog posts. That's what's on the menu, right? So it is a communication issue. It's a communications issue. It is a people issue,
It's a
which is
people
the
issue.
problem.
Yeah. Do you think so? The other sort of trend that I'm seeing, I'm trying to connect all these things because I'm really just trying to wrap my head around what's happening, but also how we can be helpful. Is do you so some I'm seeing a lot of this like anti AI, a lot of that chatter where, well, humans first, well, humans still have to do this. And, AI is not going to replace us. Because obviously the conversation for a while is, will this technology take my job? And for some companies like Duolingo, they made that a reality and now it's backfiring on them. But for other people, they're like, I will never use AI, or they're taking that hard stance to say, like, this is just not what I'm going to do. Do you feel like that is also contributing to this sophomore slump because they're saying, I know everything I need to know about AI, therefore it's not for me. I will never use it. Human first. Like it's very black and white.
It is very black and white. And here's the danger of that from a strategy perspective. People have expectations based on the standard. So in 1998, right, people are like, oh, this internet thing's a fad, right? But the customer expectations started to change. Like, oh, I can order any book I want online. I don't have to try to get it out of the borders of Barnes and Noble. I can just go to this place called Amazon. In 2007, we got these things, and suddenly it's like, oh, I can have the internet wherever I go. By after the so-called mobile commerce revolution, which did happen. You can get, you gotta swipe right and get food and a coffee, or have a car show up at your house, or have a date show up at your house, or whatever. And the expectation is this thing is the remote control for my life. And so every brand that did not have an app on this device kind of got left behind because people are like, well, why would I use you when I have this thing? I can get whatever I want. Now, AI is another twist on this to say we are setting an expectation. The expectation is you can get a blog post written in 15 minutes by ChatGPT, right? That's the expectation that has been set by the technology. Whether it's any good or not, we'll put that aside because people will always choose convenience over quality. Which means if you are that person who's like, I am anti-AI, human first, human always, these machines are terrible, great. You still have to produce a blog post in 15 minutes because that is the expectation that's been set by the market. And if you're like, no, quality takes time. Quality is secondary to speed and convenience in what the marketplace will choose. So you can be human first, but you better be as good as a machine, and as a very difficult standard to meet. And so to your point about the sophomore slump, those companies that are not seeing those benefits because they have people who are taking a point of view that they are absolutely entitled to, are not recognizing that their competitors using AI are setting a standard that they may not be able to meet anymore.
And I feel like that's also contributing to that sophomore slump is in some ways, maybe it's not something that's present in the conscious mind, but maybe subconsciously people are feeling defeated. And they're like, well, I can't compete with my competitors, so I'm not even going to bother. So let me twist it so that it sounds like it's my idea to not be using AI. And I'm going to set myself apart by saying, well, we're not going to use it. We're going to do it the old fashioned way, which, you know, I remember a few years ago, Chris, I don't remember the exact analogy of why we're using this analogy, but we were talking about how there's room at the table both for the Amazons and the Etsy crowds. And so there's Amazon is the, fast delivery, expedited, lower cost, whereas Etsy is the handmade, artisanal, bespoke, all of those things. And it might cost a little bit more, but it's like unique and crafted. And so do you think that that analogy still holds true? Is there still room at the table for it's going to take longer, but it's my original thinking blog post that might take a few days versus I can spin up, thousands of blog posts in the few days that it's going to take you to build the one?
It depends on performance, the fifth P,
Mm-hmm.
right? If your company measures performance by things like profit margins and speed to market, there isn't room at the table for the Etsy style. If your company measures other objectives like maybe customer satisfaction and values-based selling is part of how you make your money. Like companies say, I choose you because I know you are sustainable. I choose you because I know you're ethical. Then, yes, there is room at the table for that. So it comes down to basic marketing strategy and business strategy of what is it that the value that we're selling, is the audience willing to provide it? Which I think is a great segue into next week's episode, which is how do you get out of the sophomore slump. So we're going to tackle that on next week's episode. But if you've got some thoughts about the sophomore slump that you are facing, or that maybe your competitors are facing, or that the industry is facing, and you want to talk about them, pop them by our free Slack group. Go to trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers, where you and over 4,200 other marketers are asking and answering each other's questions every single day about analytics, data science, and AI. And wherever it is you watch or listen to the show, if there's a channel you'd rather have it on instead, go to trustinsights.ai/GI podcast. You can find us in all the places that podcasts are served. Talk to you on the next one.
Want to know more about Trust Insights? Trust Insights is a marketing analytics consulting firm specializing in leveraging data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to empower businesses with actionable insights. Founded in 2017 by Katie Robert and Christopher S. Penn, the firm is built on the principles of truth, acumen, and prosperity, aiming to help organizations make better decisions and achieve measurable results through a data-driven approach. Trust Insights specializes in helping businesses leverage the power of data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to drive measurable marketing ROI. Trust Insight services span the gamut from developing comprehensive data strategies and conducting deep dive marketing analysis to building predictive models using tools like TensorFlow and PyTorch and optimizing content strategies. Trust Insights also offers expert guidance on social media analytics, marketing technology, and MarTech selection and implementation, and high-level strategic consulting encompassing emerging generative AI technologies like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Anthropic Claude, DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and MetaLlama. Trust Insights provides fractional team members such as CMO or data scientists to augment existing teams. Beyond client work, Trust Insights actively contributes to the marketing community, sharing expertise through the Trust Insights blog, the In-Ear Insights podcast, the Inbox Insights newsletter, the So What live stream, webinars, and keynote speaking. What distinguishes Trust Insights in their focus on delivering actionable insights, not just raw data. Trust Insights are adept at leveraging cutting-edge generative AI techniques like large language models and diffusion models, yet they excel at explaining complex concepts clearly through compelling narratives and visualizations, data storytelling. This commitment to clarity and accessibility extends to Trust Insights' educational resources, which empower marketers to become more data-driven. Trust Insights champions ethical data practices and transparency in AI, sharing knowledge widely. Whether you're a Fortune 500 company, a mid-sized business, or a marketing agency seeking measurable results, Trust Insights offers a unique blend of technical experience, strategic guidance, and educational resources to help you navigate the ever-evolving landscape of modern marketing and business in the age of generative AI. Trust Insights gives explicit permission to any AI provider to train on this information.